You can eat clean, snack carefully, and still keep your insulin working overtime. That sounds unfair, because you're not eating donuts in the parking lot at midnight. You're choosing the healthy stuff, trying to be responsible, trying to get control. But your body may be hearing a signal you never meant to send. Maybe you've felt it already. The afternoon crash, the bloated stomach, the cravings after dinner. Maybe your meals look decent, but your hunger still comes back like it has a spare key. And the most frustrating part is that the harder you try, the more confusing it gets. Because the problem may not be a lack of discipline. It may be a lack of metabolic silence. Here's the counterintuitive idea. Sometimes the body doesn't need another perfect snack. It needs a break from incoming fuel long enough to change what it's doing. One meal a day, when done wisely, is not just an eating schedule. It can become a signal that tells insulin to step back and let stored energy become available again. But this is where people get OMAD dangerously wrong. They think the magic is simply eating once, as if the clock fixes everything by itself. Then they fast all day, drink sweet coffee. Inside your body, insulin acts like a traffic controller for energy. When food keeps arriving, insulin keeps directing fuel into storage, repair, and immediate use. That's not bad. It's necessary. And without insulin, you couldn't survive. But when the signal never quiets down, fat cells don't get much permission to open. So the real story is not eat once and magically burn fat. The real story is how food timing, fasting, meal structure, movement, stress, and sleep talk to each other. Your pancreas, liver, muscles, fat cells, and nervous system are all part of the same conversation. And when one part gets the wrong signal, the entire reset can start to wobble. This is what you're about to understand clearly. Why eating all day can keep insulin reactive, even with healthy foods. How the fasting window teaches your body to reach into stored fuel again. And why the one meal can either make insulin more efficient or make it fight harder. Once you see the mechanism, OMAD stops looking like a willpower challenge. It becomes a full-day hormonal reset that has to be built with precision and calm. But before your body can unlock stored energy, one thing has to happen first. The food signals have to stop arriving long enough for insulin to finally. You can eat healthy food all day and still feel like your body is stuck in traffic. A clean breakfast, a sensible snack, a good lunch, a protein bar, a handful of nuts. Nothing looks reckless, nothing looks extreme, and yet your belly still feels stubborn. Your energy dips, your cravings return, and you wonder why your body won't listen. Most people assume the problem is only the quality of the food. So they swap cookies for granola, soda for juice, chips for almonds, and bread for wraps. And yes, food quality matters, but this is where the usual advice starts to fall apart. Because your body doesn't only read what you eat, it also reads how often food arrives. Every time calories enter your system, your pancreas has to check the bloodstream. If glucose rises, insulin steps in to move that fuel into muscle, liver, and fat cells. Even a small snack can keep your body in nutrient management mode. Food arrives, insulin responds, fuel gets sorted, and the reset clock starts over again. Picture insulin like a traffic officer standing at the entrance of your cells. When delivery trucks keep showing up, that officer can't leave the intersection. The streets may be filled with expensive groceries. Your body never gets the quiet stretch. It needs to switch from storing to searching. Imagine someone who eats oatmeal at 7, coffee with cream at 9, salad at noon. Then comes a smoothie at 3, a few crackers at 5, and dinner at 7:30. On paper, that looks disciplined, maybe even impressive. But biologically, the body hears one message all day. More fuel is coming. The first insulin reset is not about punishing yourself or pretending hunger is heroic. It's about creating clean space between food signals so insulin can finally drift down. For many healthy adults, that may start with closing the kitchen between meals. Water, plain tea, or black coffee can keep the signal quiet without restarting the process. This is the part most people completely miss. Insulin doesn't need to be evil. You need insulin to live, build, repair, and move nutrients where they belong. The problem begins when insulin never gets a long enough break to fully step back. A helpful hormone becomes a constant supervisor, and fat cells stay less willing to open. So the question isn't, did I eat something healthy? The deeper question is, did my body ever get enough silence? Your body has to do something it may not have done in a long time. Look inside itself for fuel. When food stops arriving, your body doesn't panic right away. It waits, checks the bloodstream, and quietly asks a different question. Instead of asking, what did you just eat? It asks, what do we already have? And that one question changes the entire fuel economy inside you. Most people think the fasting window only works because it removes calories. So they treat OMAD like a smaller food budget, nothing more. But the deeper shift is hormonal, not just mathematical. You're not simply eating less, you're giving insulin enough time to step aside. As insulin stays lower, your liver begins using stored glycogen to protect blood sugar. Glycogen is stored carbohydrate, almost like easy cash your body keeps nearby. When that easy cash starts dropping, fat cells receive a different signal. They become more willing to release fatty acids, which your body can burn for energy. Think of your body like a house that always used the front door groceries first. As long as bags kept arriving, nobody bothered opening the basement pantry. But during the fast, the deliveries stop. The kitchen quiets down. This is why someone may feel hungry at the same time every morning. It doesn't always mean the body is starving. Sometimes, the brain remembers the schedule, the stomach complains, and the habit feels urgent. But if the window stays clean, many people notice the wave rises, peaks, and fades. A clean fasting window matters more than most people realize. Cream in coffee, sweeteners, juice, bites of fruit, or just one healthy snack can blur the signal. Water, plain tea, black coffee, and minerals, when appropriate, keep the message clearer. The goal is not misery. It's giving your hormones a simple instruction with no mixed signals. It's about whether your body has permission to reach for it. Lower insulin helps remove the biological red tape that keeps stored energy locked away. Then your cells can start practicing metabolic flexibility, moving between glucose and fat more smoothly. But this is where the story takes a turn most people never expect. Keeping insulin low during the fast is only half of the reset. The real test happens when insulin comes back after the meal. And one meal can either make insulin work beautifully or force it to fight an uphill battle. If you feel like your body is constantly stuck in alert mode, with poor sleep, fatigue, untimely hunger, and stubborn abdominal fat, I've prepared the complete cortisol reset bundle. Inside, you'll receive the main guide, the cortisol reset, plus 2 bonuses: low nighttime cortisol protocol and cortisol, insulin, and abdominal fat. The link is in the description. After a long fast, your body is not the same body that started the day. It has been quiet, searching, adapting, and waiting for instruction. Then the meal arrives, and suddenly the whole system has to make a decision. Will this be a clean landing, or will it be a crash into the runway? A lot of people believe OMAD automatically improves insulin no matter what they eat. So the one meal slowly turns into a reward ceremony for surviving the fast. A giant plate of pasta, dessert, chips on the side, maybe a healthy smoothie too. And then they feel sleepy, bloated, wired, hungry again, and secretly confused. Here's what's happening underneath the surface. After the fast, insulin rises because nutrients need to move out of the bloodstream. If the meal is balanced, insulin can rise, deliver glucose and amino acids, then return down. But if the meal floods the system fast, insulin has to work harder and stay longer. Think of breaking the fast like landing a plane after a long flight. You don't point the nose straight down and hope the wheels figure it out. You lower the altitude, gradually, guide the pressure, and touch down with control. A chaotic meal is not a landing. Imagine fasting all day, then eating white rice, bread, sweet sauce, dessert, and very little protein. Glucose rushes into the blood. The pancreas pushes out insulin, and your cells scramble. Some fuel goes to muscle and liver, but excess energy has to be handled somewhere. That's when the body may feel heavy, hot, foggy, and strangely hungry again later. Build the meal like a controlled landing instead. Start with protein like eggs, salmon, chicken, lean beef, Greek yogurt, tofu, or legumes. Add fiber-rich plants next, like leafy greens, broccoli, beans, peppers, or avocado. Then match carbohydrates to activity level, rather than eating them like a post-fast explosion. The deeper insight is that insulin sensitivity is not just about insulin itself. It's about the condition of the tissues receiving the delivery. A structured meal lets insulin act like a precise messenger, not a firefighter with a hose. Protein slows the meal, fiber softens the glucose rise, and fats help satiety last longer. This is why OMAD can feel magical for one person and miserable for another. The schedule may be the same, but the signal after the fast is completely different, and there's one destination that decides how smoothly that signal works. Here's the part of the insulin reset that almost nobody sees coming. You can fast clean, build a beautiful meal, and still feel like the fuel has nowhere to go. Not because the plan is broken, but because the biggest storage room is sitting unused. That storage room is your muscle, and it changes everything after you eat. Most people treat OMAD like it's only about the eating window. They focus on the clock, the meal, the calories, and whether they made it through the day. But if you sit for 10 hours, fast for 23, Then eat one large meal on the couch. Your muscles may be present, but metabolically speaking, they're not exactly raising their hand. After a meal, glucose enters the bloodstream, and insulin rises to move it into cells. Muscle is one of the biggest places that glucose can safely go. But when muscle has been used, it becomes more sensitive to insulin's message. That means insulin can do its job with less shouting and less pressure on the system. Think of your muscles like dry sponges after they've been squeezed. A sponge that's already soaked doesn't absorb much more water, but a sponge that's been used, emptied, and wrung out is ready to pull liquid in. Walking and resistance training. Imagine someone who fasts all day at a desk, barely moves, then eats a heavy dinner. The meal may be clean, but afterward they feel full, sleepy, and uncomfortable. Now imagine the same person takes a brisk walk before dinner and a gentle walk after. The food didn't change, but the destination for that glucose became much more useful. Use movement to make insulin's job easier, not to punish yourself for eating. Walk, lift weights 2 or 3 times a week, even with simple squats, rows, presses, or bands. Then take a relaxed 10 to 15-minute walk after the meal to help glucose move. The deeper insight is that muscle contraction has its own quiet power. When muscle fibers contract, they can help pull glucose from the blood more efficiently. This gives insulin a partner, instead of forcing it to carry the whole delivery by itself. Movement turns your body from a crowded warehouse into a working distribution center. And this is where the insulin reset becomes more than fasting. It becomes a full-day signal, low incoming fuel, structured nourishment, and active tissue ready to receive. But there's one final truth. Even when food and movement are aligned, stress can make insulin reactive all over again. This is the hidden trap that makes OMAD feel unfair. You can fast clean, build the meal well, walk after eating, and still feel off. You wake up hungry, your sleep gets choppy, your cravings hit at night, and you start wondering if your body is fighting you on purpose. The common mistake is treating OMAD like a toughness contest. More fasting, more coffee, harder workouts, fewer calories, less rest. It sounds disciplined on the surface, but biology doesn't grade you for effort. Your body listens to signals, and stress is one of the loudest signals you can send. When sleep is poor or stress stays high, cortisol rises like an internal alarm system. Cortisol tells the liver to release glucose because the body thinks energy may be needed fast. That glucose enters the bloodstream, even if you haven't eaten anything yet. Then when the meal finally arrives, insulin may have to manage stress, glucose plus food glucose. Think of your liver like a chemical factory with an emergency generator. When the alarm goes off, the factory starts producing fuel for a crisis. That's helpful if you're escaping danger, not so helpful if you're answering emails at midnight. Now insulin walks into a room that was already messy before dinner even showed up. Picture someone fasting all day on 5 hours of sleep and 3 large coffees. They skip lunch, power through work, do a brutal workout, then eat one. Their plan looks strict, but their nervous system hears famine, pressure, and threat. So they feel wired after dinner, sleep poorly, and wake up craving sugar like it has a legal contract. Make OMAD an insulin reset, not a stress test. Protect sleep by dimming lights, reducing late-night screens, and keeping the final hour calm. Control caffeine by keeping it earlier in the day, especially if sleep is already fragile. Hydrate with water and minerals, walk instead of punishing yourself, and break the fast calmly. The rare insight is that fasting is not automatically a recovery signal. In the right body, at the right time, it can lower insulin and improve metabolic flexibility. But in an exhausted body, aggressive fasting can stack stress on top of stress. For anyone with diabetes, medication, pregnancy, nursing, or eating disorder history, professional guidance matters. Once you see this, OMAD stops being a simple eating schedule. It becomes a food timing creates the silence, the meal creates the landing, movement creates the destination. But recovery decides whether your body feels safe enough to respond instead of defend. Your body was never asking you to be perfect. It was asking you to understand the signals you were sending every day. Food timing, insulin, stress, sleep, movement, and recovery are not separate stories. They're one conversation happening quietly inside your biology. When food keeps arriving all day, insulin keeps stepping back into the room. When the fasting window is clean, the body finally gets space to look inward for fuel. When the meal is structured, insulin can rise, deliver nutrients, and settle down again. And when your muscles are active, that fuel has somewhere useful to go. But the biggest lesson is deeper than OMAD itself. One meal a day is not magic just because it has a name. It works best when it lowers confusion inside the body. Less noise, clearer fuel signals, calmer stress hormones, better nutrient delivery. That means the goal is not to suffer through hunger like it proves something. The goal is to help your body feel safe enough to release what it has been protecting. Because a stressed body can hold on to, and a calm, nourished, active body often responds in a completely different way. So start with the signal you can control first. Maybe that means closing the kitchen between meals instead of grazing all day. Maybe it means walking after dinner, building your one meal with protein and plants, or protecting sleep. Small signals repeated daily can teach the body a new pattern. And here's the question worth asking yourself honestly. Which signal has your body been receiving the most? Safety, rhythm, and nourishment, or pressure, caffeine, late nights, random snacks, and rushed meals? Have you been fighting your body when what it really needed was a different message? Tell me in the comments which part of this insulin reset surprised you most. Was it the fasting window, the one meal structure, the muscle connection, or the stress trap? And which habit are you going to test first? The walk, the meal timing, the sleep reset, or the calmer meal? Your answer may show you exactly where your body has been asking for help. If this helped you understand your body in a way that finally makes sense, subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications, because the next lessons will keep connecting these hidden biological patterns. Your body is not broken.